Okay. Hi, everyone. As you all know, I am launching the Dear Younger Self series, and I have my first guest. I'm super excited. This is going to be episode 3. The first 2 episodes were me. Unfortunately, we were unable to record last week with another young lady due to scheduling conflicts and things of that sort. So I'm super excited to share that LaShana Stevens, Miss LaShana Stevens, will be joining us today and sharing her thoughts. Now, LaShana is an amazing woman. We met through the Extreme Execution coaching program with Eric Thomas and Associates. We are both certified extreme execution coaches, which I'm really, really proud to say. But LaShana wears a lot of amazing hats. She is first and foremost, a wife and mother of 4. She is a marriage and family therapist. She is an extreme execution coach, and she is teaching and coaching on relationship development. And I'm super excited just to hear what her journey has been and what kind of lessons she can share with us of her journey. What are some of the things that she's learned over the course of wearing all of these amazing hats. So thank you, LaShana, for joining me in this series. I'm super, super excited to have you and to share with the world, like, what are you doing? How are you? What are your lessons? What have you
That
learned?
was such a good introduction. I mean, you just killed it. That was so good. That was good. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's, we met as an extreme execution coaches, online, and I had hosted one of the like Monday night calls, and I was speaking about just, being your first client as a coach when you first get into this industry, really niching down and figuring out what your niche is and all of that. And so I was really glad that you reached out with questions about just balancing everything. And I think that that's kind of always the question whenever you have multiple children or you've been married for a while. It's like, that's like the question, because everybody's just like, what is it? Like, how do we do all of these things?
Yes, yes.
And there's really no answer. It's kind of just like, I always say it's like putting yourself first. I learned really young that self-care is like really, really important, more than just like maintenance, more than just like hair and nails and different things. I've always really been into that anyway, but it didn't necessarily balance my life out. I think that just for me, it was always being able to have control over my life, my finances, just like feeling free has always been like important to me.
I can
And
speak to
so
that freedom feeling. There's nothing like it.
it's just like, I was just that one kid that just like wanted to be, in the class, and just like the teacher's either assistant or something that was like going to keep me into my own control, where I wasn't just going to be like in line. I needed an assignment. I feel like I was born just like wanting to have an assignment and freedom to like flow in that.
I love that.
So yeah.
And I love the fact that you embraced it. You weren't like, oh, everybody else is doing X, Y, and Z. Let me go with the flow of what the structure is. Like you were like, no, this is not, I gotta feel my own individuality. And you embrace that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I think it's just because of the way that I was raised. I think my mom is kind of the same way in that kind of sense. Like
Mhm.
she got married to my dad when they were 18. Like on her 18th birthday, she married my dad, and he was in the Air Force. They moved to California, and then, they didn't stay married very long, but she always kind of just did her own thing. Like she was very independent, and she supported my independence. Like if I got in trouble at school,
Wow.
or, something that a teacher didn't do that, I thought was fair, my mom always like sided with me.
Nice.
It was always just kind of like that. She would talk to me about it if it was something, but she kind of encouraged that. It was like I was always that kind of kid that really needed my freedom and to be able to be really decisive and make decisions about certain things. And she really supported it. So I think that that played a big role in me not going with the flow, because I had the support from my mom in that way, where it was kind of just like, yeah, you know. live your life, you know?
She probably knew in the womb too, like this one is gonna be a little feisty and a little spicy. She probably was like, I have to embrace this because this is her natural thing, right? Like so.
I hope so. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, definitely teenage years were tough because I feel like that's kind of where she tried to pull the reins in, where it was just like,
Ah,
and then it was kind of just like, well, no, we've been doing it this way and this has been working for me.
yep. You can't
Carry
change it
on.
now, mama. You
Yeah,
can't change
change
it
it now.
now.
So we definitely had our time in my teenage years of, me being a little more rebellious or just sharing, wanting to do things my way and and it did have its time where it just backfired. But I was glad that she did as a young kid. I feel like confidence, she really instilled confidence because she always, you know, she talked highly of herself and she talked highly of her accomplishments, and she encouraged me to talk about accomplishments and just like being proud of whatever it was that I was doing, like whatever choices I was making, just to own it. And if it was a good thing, then keep rolling with it. If it's something that I'm not happy about, then change it.
That's
But she
awesome.
definitely made me feel um that it was okay. I think that a lot of the women just around, I grew up with women, just very confident women that were about their business. And that was kind of like the common theme, was just like, doing your thing. So I think that definitely helped me as a kid to be able to kind of navigate and not follow the crowd.
Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. That is so amazing. And, we were talking before recording of like how I always, not always, but I wanted to fit in because people were telling me different things. And my mom was similar in that sense, where she was like, girl, let your hair be all big and curly and beautiful you have. But listening to other people, the straight hair thing was in.
Mm.
Um, Hearing other people, I wanted to conform. So I'm glad that you embraced that because that was a lesson that I have learned of like just being in your own flow, just loving who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I could definitely relate to the hair thing, especially growing up in predominantly white schools. It's like, yeah, I felt that when you were like my hair, because I think for especially with Black women, our hair is always such a thing. It's like the curls, it's you know the poofiness. If you straighten it, if you wear braids, it's like, can you wear braids for this? That's always been kind of a common thing amongst Black women or women of color that have curly hair, Spanish curly hair,
Yeah.
it's always been a thing. And so when you grow up with predominantly white kids that talk about your hair, or what's your hair doing, or oh, can I touch it, or those type of things, I definitely remembered that. And it wasn't easy. I don't think that part of it was easy, just because going to the beach, the hair is going to swell, or you got to put some braids in it, or you got to
Wear a cap and stuff like that. And everybody else is just out
blowing.
there. Yep.
It does, and it does give you more of a, like, make me more conscious of it. I know having full lips for me, that was a thing. Like
Right.
now, I mean, they're plumping them, they're doing all
Woo.
these things.
Yep.
But back then, having fuller lips, it was talked about. It wasn't like, it's like, oh, you have really full lips, or you have really big lips, or, it's like that was a thing. That was something that I was conscious of,
Yeah.
where it's like, and then I just embraced it because it was kind of just like, well, I mean, I'm getting compliments over here, it's like, that ain't, can't be
Yeah.
that bad for everybody. It's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea,
Yeah.
and so that was something that my mom, my aunts, my godmothers, like they always just reinforced that, like, girl, they talking about it now, but they gonna be on it later. Like, don't, so it's like having that encouragement, like how
Yeah.
your mom was. But it is difficult when it's like you're hearing like it could be good, but if you're not getting enough of that encouragement on the opposite side,
Yeah.
you can still feel frustrated because you're like, yeah, I hear you, but you my mom.
Yes.
Like,
You
you
gotta
got
love me. Yeah. No,
outside
definitely.
with us. Like,
Yeah.
you don't understand what it's like,
Yeah, because my mom has straight hair, so it was that same
Oh.
exact like idea. Like you don't know what it's like to walk around with this bush poofy hair as they consider it now. I mean, it's pretty, it's not as poofy as I can put it, but and poof, I don't know. Like there's times where I do wear it super big and super voluminous, and I love it.
Mhm.
But yeah, what we would tell our younger self, like,
I
don't.
know, I know. As my younger self, I mean, from just thinking back from now to back then, I think the main thing about talking to our younger self, because I'm careful around these type of subjects because I always feel like I don't regret anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't have any regrets about any decisions that I've made. I feel like everything has led me to here, and I feel that
Mm-hmm.
it has, like, I needed all of those things for it to make sense now. And so I try to not like, oh, you should have done this, or you should have done that, or you should have done this. But I will say, if I could tell my younger self something, I would definitely prioritize the assessment.
Yeah.
Like, like you need to get
Had
this
that when you
assessment
were
because it was
16.
out. It was
Yep.
it
Yep.
was out back then. So I would have definitely, just so that I could have been more aware that my strengths were really for me. You know what I mean? To where I could feel like, because you grew up with you're bossy, you're this, you're that,
Yep.
um, you hurt people's feelings, you say just whatever comes to mind, but learning how to use those in a way that did not like mess up some relationships, because
Mm.
I feel like my directness and my sharing my opinion so freely, where I would think is a good thing, I didn't know then that was like not frowned upon, but that could cause problems in relationships. You're thinking you're helping people by telling them the truth, but every truth doesn't need to be said,
Or
you know
said in a certain way too.
way.
So we're like real direct, straight to the point.
And it's like
And
because
we don't
that's what I
got time.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want that, but everybody doesn't respond to that. And so I think that I would tell my younger self, to be more not just cautious of the relationships that you build, but be just more discerning of the people that you're around, you know, and being more self-aware of yourself, like how you're coming across to people. If you're trying to help them, you know, do a little more, not cutting what you're saying, but just like be more aware of how it impacts other people, not
Definitely.
just saying everything that you feel because you think that your opinion is so important that everybody needs to hear it
No,
because it's
it's true. Like you
because
said, not every truth has to be said. Like,
not every truth has to be said. It's not necessary in every situation, and opinions are people don't share their opinions that freely. Like that's not something that is really common, so to have that, use it wisely. Like don't just be out here recklessly giving your opinion about everything that somebody brings to you. Sometimes you can just say, I'm not going to say anything about that. This is not, I don't wish to share you
yeah.
know so because you could be offending people and not even knowing it, and people hold grudges and you don't even know that they're mad at you for saying something, you know what I mean? So it's
Well,
like
I got a situation that way. Somebody I felt like I was really close to, literally a couple months ago, blocked me.
you're like, you're like, wait, what?
I still don't even know what I did. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of have an inkling of like a statement that I made. It wasn't even offensive in my opinion. It
Right.
wasn't even about her. And I have not had contact with her in a few, and I'm just not at the point where I'm like, what did I like? If I don't know, I can go on and on this, but I literally just have a situation this way. Someone that I've known for a very long time too. So it's sad that they feel like they can't even say, hey, Crystal, you were too direct in this point, or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't even know, but
Right.
what do you
Yeah,
know?
it happens. I mean, that's happened to me several times, especially in my younger years. It definitely has happened to me where it's like, people are offended or they'll come back and say that they're upset about something that I did or said. And I'm just like, wait, what? What did I say? I didn't even
Huh?
realize that I said anything. So that's definitely something that I would tell my younger self, just like everybody doesn't respond to things the same type of way. Sometimes people, you just don't have to share it the way that you're sharing it, or you don't have to share it at all.
At all. Yeah.
Some things you can just keep to yourself. Everything doesn't need to be said. So that's something. And just with relationships in general, just like even romantic relationships, like take those more seriously, and how much it does impact your future. I had a baby when I was a teenager. I was 18 when I got pregnant, and I had my son. And me and my first son's father didn't work out. We were young kids. And looking back, I'm like, wow, I was so young. Like 18 is so young. I have an 18-year-old son. I couldn't imagine him having a kid. But, so I think that I wasn't thinking long term. And it didn't really hit me until I actually did get married and I had my kids. And to see the difference between a single me and a married me, and how much that does impact your kids.
Yeah.
Just with and I was raised with my mom, and I felt like I had a great childhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I don't regret anything. And, in my childhood, I feel like I was raised well. My mom did a really good job with me. I had stuff that I needed, but I do see the difference in the way that I was raised versus the way that my daughters are raised,
Got it.
um, and their protection and their safety.
Yeah.
I feel like because I didn't grow up with my dad, I knew my dad, but he lived in New York. We lived in California. When they separated, like it was 3,000 miles away. He didn't have that, every day or weekly or biweekly relationship where I would see him. So I saw for my daughters, I see them as having that protection, having a male in the home. Um, they don't have the same thing. Like I have guys coming to my house. They didn't mind knocking on the door, coming to see. It was
Yeah.
just me, my mom, and my brother. So it was like there was no male guard there,
Yeah.
that safety protection that my daughters have, where boys are not knocking on the door. Like they see their dad picking them up every day from school. You know what I mean? So it's like they know that they have a dad that's
Yep.
around. So
Yep.
they come at them different than I would say for myself. How boys will be calling the house and boys popping up at the house or knocking on the door. And my mom, either she wasn't home because she was working, but I didn't have that extra layer of protection. My dad wasn't, he lived 3,000 miles away. He was in and out of jail. He just wasn't a present. He
Yeah.
wasn't a present parent in that way, like what my daughters have. So I'm like, for me, I'm like, I see what the importance of having that unit, that family structure unit. It really does make a difference. You can have a great life, a great, raise your kids right. You can do, but that extra layer of protection, I did not have that. And I feel like if I had that, I probably would not have gotten pregnant at a young age. And I would, so I have zero regrets because I
Yep.
feel like I wouldn't even have this message had it not went the way that it did. I wouldn't have known that that was like part of it. You don't hear about, I know that for myself, I've never heard about it explained that way.
Yep.
Where the father is like, yeah, the protector, but at what cost? Because we all, have our different, family situations, and we still have happiness. I don't feel like I had like a traumatic experience. Didn't go through like a trauma, but in the long run, I do see the difference in how not having a dad in the home, it really did make a difference in the trajectory of my life. Being a
Yep.
single mom, going into, and then getting married. And so I feel like that has definitely played a part in even me with my marriage, and seeing how important that is, not just for my
Mhm.
kids, but for myself too. Like we need that partnership, that support, that, it is really important. And I see it in a different way now.
Mhm. No, this is all, and this is why the series is here, right? Like I thought about it late one night. It kind of came to me. I'm like, man, if I can get a group of amazing women come together and just share one or two lessons, three or four lessons, whatever, of what they've learned throughout the years of growing and development and developing, um, and the different roles that they have, what would they? And teenagers, they tend not to listen as much, but some of them are really big on, hey, how can I not fast track, but what can I do now to be a better person in the long run? Whether you're going through middle school, even going through high school and college, trying to figure out who you are at the core. And I love that you said that you wish you had the assessment because you could have identified some of those strengths that you have and really realize, like, wow, this is who I am, but also learn how to not adapt, how to communicate with other people
Mm.
based off of their communication style. So not being as direct or not saying anything at all, so that the relationships that you had didn't, they didn't turn out the way that they did. And we get it. Like, someone had to tell me, actually my best friend was like, different people are in your life for different reasons and different seasons and different lessons. Because what I found myself doing was, if I didn't speak to someone for a while, I would always reach back out. And she's like, Crystal, girl, you need to make sure that they're also reaching out to you. You can't continue to water this seedling or this plant that doesn't want to be watered anymore, or that it's, you know what I mean? It's kind of ending and it had its season. So this is why we're doing this, LaShana. Like, all
Yeah, no, this is really I mean, that's what I was telling you, like you have to do this series because it's so good to just talk to people and find out their perspective. And even with the assessment, like getting it earlier. And I've talked to other coaches about this too that have, that know about the assessment or that are coach using the assessment. And it's like, wow, the time that you save trying to figure out what you should be doing or feeling, because when you're in a job that you don't know why you're there, or what you should be doing, and you feel like, I don't really know what my role is. If I would have known that my gift was leadership, I probably wouldn't have got into so many arguments with,
amen.
with staff and just like
Yeah.
coworkers and even my leadership. And
Yeah.
it makes sense now because for a pilot, like we really need strong, solid leadership. Like if you're a leader and you don't know something, I need for you to say that you don't know.
Yes.
That don't act like you know and then you don't know, because I'm gonna see that you don't know.
Don't
And
know.
I'm not gonna respect what you're saying moving forward, because I'm not gonna know if you really know how to get us to where we need to go.
Yeah.
And I remember just being a young girl, like my first job, I worked at a mortgage company in the insurance and the customer service department first. And then by the time I was 18, when I had my son, I had already had my own little department, and I was,
Wow.
into it with like, with women that were like 20 years older than me that had been there for a while. It's like, I knew that I knew I could handle it, but I didn't realize that that was my strength. That it's just like, no, this is just like, I don't mind going for the top. I don't mind going and getting what I think I deserve. Like if I've been here for 3 years, it don't matter if I started in high school. If I know how to do this job and I can do the job, like, yeah, I deserve it. And I'm gonna go for it. And when I get in there, may the best person win, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know that that was my strength then. And I probably would have approached it different, even with other people, or trying not to do everything myself, like getting more support and help. That's something that came much later, where I would get help.
Yeah.
Before it was like I felt like I needed to do everything myself because couldn't nobody do it like I was doing it. And it's like, no, because you don't really need everybody to do it like that.
Yeah.
Everybody have
Yeah.
they spot. That's how you get overworked.
Yeah. But
So
also identifying, okay, there are the strengths and the things that we don't gravitate towards, right? Like, I can name a few things off the top of my head of things that are like, nope, we're really straightforward, really focused. We want the vision. We want to just get there and lead and then be out, right? We don't need all the small details. And hiring people to manage those things that are truly their gifts.
yes, and that really do need to be done. It's
Yes.
not like, it's stuff that really needs to be done that maybe we might graze through it or not really, feel like, oh, that's not really that important. And then you find out when you get to the end, it's like, oh, well, what happened with
Who captured this?
how
Yeah.
did the floor, like the whole floor just disappears. It's like, wait, how did the floor sink?
Yeah.
Like because the foundation wasn't really, you didn't get that foundation part. Like you was just already just moving.
Yeah. I love it. This is so good. So good. Saving time, man.
Time.
I wish I had it too. I could avoid a lot of stuff just like you. But we're here, we're still learning. We have many, 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 many years to come where we are, then we have the awareness, we have it now, and
Mhm.
we're being able to mature in areas that seem to be less mature. You know what I mean? Like kind of like
Yes.
what you talked about of just saying things to however you want to say it, and it just coming out of your mouth, and you not realizing. Like my husband sometimes says, he's like, "Oh, that was a little," and I'm like, "Was it really?" I'm like, "I'm sorry,
I
I
was just telling
didn't
the truth. You
try."
know?
But I hope this helps. I think it is. I know it is actually, that this is going to help someone identify, the things that they can work on now to be better as they're going through career changes and identification of career, and may need to slip on a couple different shoes in order to figure it out. But
Yeah, for sure.
here we
Because I mean,
go.
even knowing that, knowing what we know, there's still a process of learning and figuring out what it is that you're going to need to get to that next level.
Yep.
So it's like that's like the first thing is like the awareness, like, oh, okay, yeah, these are my things that I'm now, where can I implement them?
Yep.
What jobs work for me, what, in my entrepreneurship, like what works for my programs. I think even me getting my degree in marriage and family therapy, it wasn't until I actually went through the clinical experience that I realized I was just like,
Mm.
I don't want to work with clients for like, on the same issue for 5 years.
Yep.
It was like, for me, it was like, okay, well, when are we gonna, and then I realized that therapy is different than coaching.
Yep.
So I was like, the coaching is like, more of a fast track, working with people for 3 months, a year, however long, but you're checking off the list on the way. So it doesn't feel so stagnant. And so if I would have never went through school, even knowing my strengths at that point, if I would have never went through that process in school and knowing that helping people in that way, therapy, coaching, that's what I was interested in. Now I see like, oh, the reason why I
Mhm.
felt that way about therapy and was ready to transition to coaching was because I am more of an execution person. Like I do want to be able to see some growth, so it's like that is more of my area, my niche is, relationships, but coaching,
Yep.
so it's like you can never we're never going to master it, but we can at least know where we're at in the journey and like, okay, we're staying in our comfort, in our comfort zone of um just being that, having that awareness, like, okay, I know that this is part of my strength, so even though I don't know what it's going to do yet, I know that I'm being true to myself.
Yep.
I'm not just adapting the whole
Yep.
time. I'm learning as I go,
Good.
still.
Most definitely. Well, any final thoughts? I know we have a few more minutes. Um,
Just thank you for inviting me and thinking of me to want me to share on your journey of doing this new series. Yeah, I think this is great. I think you got to keep this going and, talking to different people about it. And it even helped me think about, you know, like I was saying in the beginning, like I don't really like to say like, oh, what I could have done different, like, with regret. But just even having this conversation, I'm like, well, you know what? There are some things, because I know that people, and I think that this younger generation right now, they are wanting the information.
yes.
They do. They want the information. And I definitely think taking the assessment is the first step for anything. I'm like, I can't help you if I don't really know. Because
No.
people, you
Yeah.
don't really know. It's like you've been living this way, but you're not for sure. Let's take the test. Let's see how it's lining up and
Yeah.
what it says, and then we could kind of just go from there. And I think the younger you take it, the better. My kids have all taken it. It helps me parent them better.
Yeah.
Staying
So
in
you
my
can apply
lane.
it to all areas of your life:
Listen,
marriage, kids, business.
kids,
Coaching.
business,
Yeah.
it's all, it's all helpful. So I would say definitely taking the assessment is the first step to even, to give it some type of advice to someone that's younger, is knowing,
Awesome.
getting the facts.
Amen to that. Now, real quick, put your plug in. Where can we find more of Mrs. LaShana Stevens? You
Oh,
can
well, you can
drop your
follow me on
stuff in.
Instagram. Yeah, you can follow me on
Okay.
Instagram. Modern Mommy Mogul, and mommy is spelled Mommie Mogul, Mogul. You can find me there, or you can email me at modernmommymogul@gmail.com.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you, LaShana. My pleasure having you, and we will talk soon, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.